Hello, my name is Chloe, welcome to my channel. Today I'm bringing to you the second part of my April wrap-up. So if you haven't seen, I released this wrap-up in two parts because April was the month of the OWLs and I'd finished all of my OWLs and read some extra books, so I just had far too many to talk about in one video. So this is part two. These are my non-OWLs books. I also made a bit of a slip up in the last video and said I'd read 21 books total. I think it's actually 20, so I'm gonna go with 20. I don't want to overestimate myself here. It was 20 books. I've included one on both lists by accident, very sorry, but still 20 books is an amazing achievement. It is the most books I have ever read in a month, so I am extremely happy, and these books particularly were amazing books for me because I just picked things that I really wanted to read. I didn't care about why I was reading them, I just wanted to read some books. So on that note, I will jump straight in, and the first book I finished that wasn't an OWLs book was Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, the illustrated edition. So I was actually buddy reading this with Brittany at the Neverending Reader's daughter, who was reading it for school, which was such a cute experience. I mean, obviously we didn't talk about it to the length we would if it was me and Brittany reading the book, but it was just really cute knowing that she was reading it too and like checking up on how much she'd read. This I obviously gave 5 stars. It's Harry Potter. I would give an extra 5 stars to the illustrator if I could. So good. Don't think I need to go into what Harry Potter is about, but I had an amazing time reading this book this month. Next, I took part in a 12-hour reading challenge, which I will link in the description. But in that reading challenge, I decided I wanted to read as much of the Selection series by Kira Cass as humanly possible, because the Selection's being turned into a Netflix film. So first, I read The Selection by Kira Cass. And I had read this book before. I gave it 5 stars. I gave it 5 stars on my reread. It is such, I don't want to say trashy, but trashy, YA, dystopian from like 2012. All of the tropes that people just hate to love. I love all of this book. It was such a good experience to read. I was so invested in all of the characters. I was invested in the romance, the love triangle. It was so special to me, and I had an amazing time reading this. And yeah, I read it in pretty much one sitting. So then I moved on to the sequel, which was The Elite by Kira Cass, and I also gave this book 5 stars. And again, I read it in one sitting. This was a ride. I have never been more invested in a character's decisions, and when they're making decisions and I think it's the wrong decision, I was getting angry. I could have thrown this book. I don't know how these books affected me quite so much, but they really did, and I had an amazing time reading this one as well. And then as far as I got in that readathon was The One by Kira Cass. I gave this one 5 stars as well, but I actually didn't read it all in one sitting. I read it in 2 parts. I physically ran out of time in the day and finished it off the next morning. So this is following the journey from the characters in the first books, and this one I think I did throw at one point because I was so invested in the characters' decisions that it was making me physically angry when they weren't doing things, or they were doing things, or they were telling certain people their feelings that should have been different, and really stressed me out. I've never been more stressful reading a book about what is going to happen. Like, I felt like these characters were real and that their decisions were going to actually impact my life, and I got quite angry about them. People who have read this book, you will know the last chapter or so I wanted to be so much longer. They could have played that out for a while, and finding out that book 4 is actually about different characters. I wanted more at the end of this book, but 5 stars because of how much it did to me physically, like, and my emotions. Next was part of I'm in a group rereading the Hunger Games series, ready for the release of the prequel. So I read Catching Fire by Suzanne Collins. I actually gave this book 4 stars. I know, controversial. I really enjoyed this book. I enjoyed the premise. I don't think it's much of a spoiler. I would have liked to get to the arena faster, because I didn't enjoy the build-up as much, and I felt like we could have been in the arena for longer. The only reason this book didn't get 5 stars was the last chapter or so. So obviously I'm not going to say what was said, but I needed them to say it again. I didn't understand what had happened. So I did have to read the end of this book twice just to get it in my brain, because I really didn't get it. I didn't know what had happened. So I just feel like there could have been a bigger bulk at the end explaining what was going on. Whether I'd read too much that day and I didn't get it, I don't know. But the ending didn't work for me and I wanted a bit more. That being said, I'm reading Mockingjay in the next couple of days and I can't wait to pick it up. So all of these books now I don't have physical copies of for different reasons. The first one being My Life Next Door by Huntley Fitzpatrick. This was an extremely cute YA contemporary that I gave 3.5 stars. I genuinely had an amazing time reading it. I've already sent it off to somebody else who is going to hopefully love it. It didn't get the best rating from me. I think I just read so many good books that I could have been a little harsh on this one. But it was just a cute contemporary about a girl with the perfect mom, the perfect house, and there's a family next door where they have, in the description of the book, too many children. They have 8 children, I want to say, and they're not as financially successful as the original characters' family. They are like pretty much trying to present them as polar opposites. And obviously our main character develops a crush on one of the sons from next door. And she has to keep this a secret, that's why it's called My Life Next Door. Really enjoyed it. It dealt with some pretty intense stuff as well. There was also a race to, was she going for senator, or she was senator or something, the main character's mom. So there were a couple of like little political digs that I didn't quite like, and I think, okay, so I just explained this book for far too long, related to the political views of the main character, but then there's never a right way to talk about those things, but I think there may have been a little jumble between what image we were trying to get of this family and what image politically the author wanted to present. It's very hard to talk about, but I'll just go with that. Did enjoy it. The romance was cute. There were a couple of scenes that I appreciated, I will just say. Quite lovely. Yeah, it was a good time. It just wasn't anything mind-blowing, so 3.5 stars for me was pretty good. Next was Tom's Midnight Garden by Philippa Pierce, which I didn't give a rating. I left it as like an A. Never know how you actually say it. So this was a children's classic. I remember reading it at school, at primary school, and I decided a while ago that I wanted to reread it, so I bought myself a copy and I pulled it out of my TBR tortoise during one of my reading vlogs. I really enjoyed reading this book. It was a really good time. I actually annotated it, and then I'm going to take my copy over to Brittany when I next go and stay, which will hopefully be soon, I'm praying. As I'm filming this, the UK has passed its peak on coronavirus, and I just need to hope that it keeps going down and America starts going down so I can get on a damn plane. But that is a different part of my life right now, so we're ignoring it. I just can't talk about it without getting angry. So... really good book. This is about Tom, who his brother gets the measles, so he has to quarantine himself, great timing, very topical, with his aunt and uncle, and they are just looking after him. But it's a very boring house. There is no garden, he just stays in a room, and then there is a big grandfather clock downstairs, which as he's sleeping strikes 13, so he goes to investigate. And in his investigations he opens the back door to this like flat building, and there is a garden, like a magical garden that isn't there in the daytime but it is there at night, and he makes friends with a lovely girl called Hattie, who is living in the house in the time that he is transported back to in the Midnight Garden. Rattled on about that for too long. Very cute book, would definitely recommend. Definitely recommend like for children. I remember reading it at school and one part gave me a nightmare, but I think I'm just crazy. But it was a very good time and I recommend it. So last but not least, I read The Leaving by Tara Altebrando. I read this in 2017 and gave it 4 stars, and then I saw a booktuber's review of it where they said it was the worst book they'd ever read, so I was very intrigued and I wanted to know what was so bad and whether my reading taste had changed. Reread it, I still gave it 4 stars. It was brilliant. I'm not sure why I have this different opinion, but really enjoyed it. This is another one that Brittany was dying to read it, so it's in the pile of books to take to her. It was about 6 children who get abducted when they are 6 years old, and only 5 of them come back 11 years later. So they come back with no memories, so they have to try and find out where they've been, why they don't remember anything, why they were taken, and where the sixth child is. It was a very good time. Highly recommend it, especially I don't read a lot of thrillers, so I felt like it was really good as like a gateway book into bigger thrillers, maybe, potentially. But yeah, I had an amazing time reading it and would definitely recommend it. So those are all the books I read in April aside from my OWLs books. If you haven't seen that video, I will make sure it is linked in the description for you so you can go and check it out, because there's a lot more books in that video as well. But thank you for watching this one. I really do hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.